Thank you for doing this. Given the significant human rights abuse highlighted in your reports, including arbitrary killings, torture, and political imprisonment, particularly with reference to the case of former Prime Minister and leader of the opposition, as you mentioned, this is a political ploy to remove her from the political process. So, how do you ensure these reports lead to tangible changes and that the regime responsible face consequences for their extreme human rights violations?
Well,
And one more in the end.
I think ensuring anything will happen can be challenging. Certainly our hope with the Human Rights Report is by shining the light on specific issues and specific human rights concerns, we're able to help facilitate change by governments and regimes in a positive direction. With regard to Bangladesh, we had the visa restriction policy that was announced in May 2023, implemented before the elections with the hope of reducing violence to deter actions that could undermine the democratic election process. We have nothing new to announce at this time, but as is our longstanding practice, we don't often preview actions with regard to policy or with regard to visas. But we have repeatedly expressed concern about the efforts by the government to repress freedom of expression, including for members of the press, freedom of association, and other fundamental freedoms and human rights, and that remains a continued concern of the United States.
So one more on India, your reports finding significant human rights issues, including credible reports of arbitrary unlawful killings, including extrajudicial killings, and the attack of the press. And you mentioned that the government took minimal credible steps or action to identify and punish officials who who have committed human rights abuses. I'm quoting from your report. Mm-hmm. So what action you are taking to make the government accountable, as India is your very strategic partner of the United States?
Well, what I will say is the U.S. and India regularly consult at the highest levels on democracy and human rights issues. We strongly urge India to uphold its human rights obligations and commitments. We also regularly meet with civil society representatives both in the U.S. and India to hear their perspectives, and those sorts of perspectives inform the Human Rights Report. And we encourage the government of India to consult and meet regularly with civil society organizations representing a diversity of people. So there are a number of steps. It remains a key component of not just our dialogue, but in terms of our engagement with India.